So I'm writing an article on back pain and I'm thinking of the simplest way I can help people. And also something that I've found for years, it's still not popular, is understanding fascia. And I think the simplest way is to just have a look at my website. I put a picture on here that shows two of the myofascial lines. I hope you can see that. And the thing about fascia and the whole body, it's getting the whole body coordinated to help these areas where we feel pain. Because part of the problem is, if we've got pain there, we want symptom relief. But it's not going to help long term. You might be able to do things to here, but it's about getting the body moving. But also knowing when not to move. That if you're in so much pain that you can't do certain exercises, or it's pain getting down to the floor, that's often another thing they say, is that with back pain that you need to do some floor exercises. But it's painful getting down to the floor and up if you're in pain. So I understand that. I've been through it myself. A lot of people have, especially so-called experts in the fitness game. And even therapists have a lot of back pain, and they might be helping their clients short term, but are they really knowing how to treat the fascia to get long-term results? Remember, it's about the whole. Now these two lines, let me show you them again. They're the front and back lines of the body. So, you know, we have side lines, we have front lines, we have spiral lines, we have deep lines. But it's good to think for a start of these ones, they're called superficial lines. So if you imagine the front line comes from the tops of the toes all the way up to the quads, into the abdominals, yes, the abdominals, and into the sternum region. And, you know, the first thing when we think about is this first front line is the abdominals are not separate. So why do we train the abdominals separately? And that's another thing, that's another longer conversation. But if you want to, if people tell you that you need to be super stiff, holding your pelvis in neutral, strong there to help your back, please don't listen to that. Yes, I'm not going to criticize people that do crunches and have bracing, but if you hold your breath and do that, how are you supposed to move? Look, if my pelvis is in neutral there, and then I brace my abdomen, how am I supposed to move? Am I going to move around like this all day? No, because look, if I take a step, what's happened? Pelvis, rib cage, bottom of the rib cage, ASIS, anterior suprailiac spine, and most of core training, core stability is about getting this super stiff to protect in there. Well, how does that help you when you move? If you take one step properly, look what's happened. My pelvis has gone that way, my rib cage has gone that way. So I'm not going to say don't do crunches or sit-ups, but do some rotational movements. But that's another conversation. So that's a start, that we're aware the abdominals are a part of a continuum through the front of the body that needs to be worked together. Then we have what's called the superficial back line, from our scalp down our back into the rectus spinae, and very deep into the pelvis, into something called the sacrodubious ligament. Now, it's just a very thick ligament, and it really is there to stop our sit bone dropping out of our bum, because it attaches to the sit bone and comes up to the sacrum. So that's a continuum from all these muscles in the back. They go into a big ligament, and then that ligament attaches to the sit bones, and then from the sit bones you've got the hamstrings. The hammies go down, and then here they link. It's a continuous link. It looks a little bit like this, where the hamstrings grip onto the calves, but actually it is continuous, goes into the calves, and then also the whole plantar fascia of the foot. So these are the front and back lines of the body. Now, obviously to move, we're not going to move around like this all day, but if you were doing butterfly, for instance, or jumping, there's a lot of front to back movement involved. So a good way to start is what I call the wave. Now, it's a very simple one. If you're sitting at a desk, you need to get your ready position. If you've got one of these desks that go up and down, that's great too. And also, this is where I say, even if you're good at yoga, don't go straight down to the ground and do a downward dog. Try it from a height. And so you use the front and back lines to work together. And there's also the way that energy goes through the body. So the energy, or the energy transference, comes from the feet up through the front, up to here, and then down the back line. So every step we take, every move we make, we've got this energy transference coming up the body and down the body, up the body and down the body. So when you do something like this, you're engaging the entirety of these two lines. Think about that. It's not isolation, but what you can do when you engage these whole lines, which is why yoga is such a great form of exercise. But like myself, I did yoga for years and I was hurting my back, so I had to go back to do things like this. And there's different forms of yoga too. It's a little bit like the gym as well, that there's good and bad things for your body. So it's finding what's right for you. So if you start with this, spread the fingertips, spread the feet, and just get the hang for a start, the hanging out of the rib cage. If you imagine a pig on a spit or a chicken on a spit, there's this length. So we want this length there, and we hang out the rib cage. And then you can slowly bend the knees down, lift the heels, lift the backside, lift the vertebrae one by one, and finish in a modified upward dog. Now, as you can see, that whole line's engaged. And then if you're in really bad pain, you can just go back the other way, or you can just drop down and lift and come forward. Now, a few pointers about this is that if you bend down and you feel pain in your back, then you need to find either a better height to work with, or you rest, or you work out what you're doing wrong, because you might be actually bending in your lumbars too much or bending too much out. So it's getting a hinge. So we think of folding like a hinge, and often this hinge happens. It's like if you bow and think of opening the chest. If you're bowing to someone, you would engage straightness here, and we engage the side glutes. So if you hinge, you get an engagement here in the side glutes. So just practicing this. And then if you go to the website, you're going to see a lot of great exercises on there. A lot of them come from this position, and I can guarantee you will feel better if you've had back pain and you try this.